Hey everybody, we're here, American Coin and Currency, where precious metals investing is heading. The future of gold, silver, white metals, and the tokenized world. We're here with our guest David LeBlanc. We're going to be starting here today. Excuse me. My name is Dustin Lee, host of American Coin and Currency podcast here. We're here with David LeBlanc, our guest, and 𝗪𝗵𝗲𝗿𝗃, CEO, founder of American Coin and Currency. You guys, a little intro of David. David is based in Canada. His dedicated career to help individuals navigate inflation, debt, financial uncertainty, and the growing loss of financial privacy using physical gold, silver, and platinum. Through one-on-one coaching, he teaches everyday people how to build long-term wealth and security, lessons our school systems never prepared us for. How's it going, David?
Very well, Dustin. John, thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here.
Thank you. We're happy to have you.
Fantastic. John, you want to give a little intro about yourself too?
Sure. My name is 𝗪𝗵𝗲𝗿𝗃. I'm the founder and CEO of American Coin and Currency, located in West Palm Beach, Florida. And we have as you can see, my windows aren't open, but beautiful day down here. The metals market is just more and more people have interest. More people are moving toward this space, and so being in the industry, it's very exciting. And I'm very excited about having David with us today, because learning new things and just information in general is invaluable. And so hearing David's perspective, I'm very much looking forward to this. And so, yeah, let's get the ball rolling.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll go into a little questions about David. So what motivated to get you into precious metal coaching?
I would say witnessing what's been happening over the past 5 or 6 years, I guess. We've had quite a significant change in, I guess, policies and changes to, just our finances. I've never seen, and let me know if you guys feel the same way, I've never seen the amount of government debt today than ever. I mean, I grew up at a time when politicians ran on balancing the budget and having, paying down debt and having no deficits was a typical goal of most governments, especially here in Canada. And it's only been, maybe the past 10 years where that ideology has gone out the window, and we're seeing massive spending, which means massive money printing, which equals inflation. And I feel like we're in this systemic spiral of, because of the massive amount of debt, we need more dollars to fund the debt, which just generates more inflation, and it's just spiraling. And so I asked myself, well, I'm in this system, we're all in this system. What can I do first and foremost to protect myself and my family? And then what can I do to help teach others? And that's where physical precious metals, gold, silver, and platinum came in. It's not something that most people were and probably still are familiar with, especially at the time, but it was a way to protect finances, whether it was digits on a screen, on an online bank account. The ability to hold real money in your hand gave me the safety and peace of mind, knowing that it couldn't be taken away from me. It couldn't be devalued like we're seeing today. And in some maybe extreme or maybe sadly a bit more normal situations, I'm seeing, and maybe you guys are too, of hearing about people being debanked, where the bank is sending them a letter and saying, sorry, we're no longer doing business with you because maybe we don't like your opinions on something. So anyways, it's been a nice, I think, rediscovery of gold and silver as real money, and how it's always been there, but it's a good way to remind ourselves the benefits and what it can do for us, especially during these times. And I don't see them going away anytime soon. I don't see governments all of a sudden getting a handle on their debt. I don't see them all of a sudden becoming responsible and fiscally accountable and saying, oh, we're going to really reduce our spending and go for a zero deficit kind of year.
Agreed. Yeah, it's kind of scary because we're moving rapidly towards that cliff. But something you said, David, which a lot of people I don't think realize how powerful debanking is, what a tool it can be for those that have the leverage and the power to debank a business or an individual. Perfect example. I have another. We have another business that we're involved in. That's the tokenization of real world assets, including rare coins, rare currency, precious metals. And when we were, this goes back now 2+ years, going on probably 3, but we were debanked, I don't know, 3-4 times, different banks. The account would be open. Once they found out it was crypto related, well, not even just blockchain related, done. But that they call it, I believe, soft power. I might be using the two terms wrong, but the amount of influence and power that, like, let's say JP Morgan has, or you name the bank, on a entity, on a corporation, on an individual is amazing. I mean, the threat, just the threat of debanking. If I'm thinking about this business, and if we didn't have the ability to do normal transactions that run through banks, it would be we wouldn't be in business. So that's something that hopefully we're seeing less of, not more of. But I guess time will tell. As soon as you said that, David, I was just like, debanking. It's a scary thing, and especially when you get into, like you said, if you have a different belief system or different opinions, and the powers that be don't like it, and now we're gonna make you suffer by debanking you. It's scary, but I think we're moving towards a world where, and we're not there yet, obviously, but with precious metals and with blockchain and more adoption of crypto, I think in a few years we're going to be able to do most of the transactions we are accustomed to now, virtually, using those assets and those ecosystems, which is exciting because the powers that be, they've had a chokehold. Look at Swift, David and Dustin. I mean, Swift controls everything around the world for the most part. That's how sanctions happen, through Swift. If you can't use the Swift system, then you're kind of in an issue, and that's why we've seen last few years, was it BRICS, BRICS,
Yeah.
kind of pop up a little more with other countries looking to get away from the dollar's dominance, which won't happen overnight, but there's no slowing down of that either. And I think you see also the central banks last week, Dustin, or the week before, news came out that for the first time ever, central banks now own more gold than they do debt instruments, which is really interesting.
So central banks are hoarding gold, and they've been doing that at record levels now, for 4 years now, 5 years. If they're doing it, what do they know that maybe we don't, or the average person doesn't know? The average person is, I think, still stuck. They probably don't even know of getting paid, having a direct deposit into their online bank account in the financial system, where they're paying monthly fees or transaction fees. They use their debit card, they use their credit card, or they invest in that system. They're just stuck in this perpetual system. And one thing I like to at least maybe open people's minds about it, if central banks are hoarding gold over dollars or anything else, maybe we should be doing the same thing as well, even just to be a little more out of the system.
Correct. That's great advice.
Yeah, let's jump into it, guys. So some of the talking points I want to mention is about central banks, and like you mentioned, they're buying at record levels. So this is the 14th year that they've been increasing their purchases. So maybe we can touch on maybe your guys' insights on specific. I know we talked about BRICS. BRICS are trying to de-dollarize and use other, facets to get outside of using the U.S. dollar. I know there's a Japanese, yen had a little bit of a dip recently, was yesterday. So what's your guys' take of like the global monetary, like being able to like kind of, we talked about, David, about how possibly getting out of those debts, and then John mentioned about the debts, it's like increasing. So what are you guys like, is quantitative easing? Are we increasing our spending? Are countries like US going to be like still holding that power? And you're out in Canada as well, so maybe you have some insights about Canada's monetary aspects of accumulating precious metals.
Well, here in Canada, the federal government last week announced their budget for this fiscal year. Now here we are, it's already almost December, and they're just announcing the budget for the year. We're already how many months into the year?
Yeah, a little late.
Right off the bat, there's one, and that budget announced record spending like we've never seen before. We're talking money that we don't have. We're talking money that our grandkids won't have. So they're going to have to borrow, and they're going to have to print. And the value of the Canadian dollar will continue to go down, and people in dollars will continue to suffer, unless you own real assets, a car, art, homes, precious metals, you will suffer. And that's what this system is designed to do, is, it's to keep us poor almost. And if we hold the fiat dollars, and I don't see countries getting out of debt. I mean, there is a list out there I saw recently of, and there are countries that are doing quite well. They don't have a lot of debt. In fact, some countries have zero debt. And I was impressed to see that. We're only talking about the developed world, and, developed, undeveloped. That's another debate. Are we developed or are we underdeveloped? Because if you look at the G7 or G20 countries, they're the biggest offenders of massive spending, massive debts. So, holding something real, I think, is the best thing that we as individuals can do, at least to protect ourselves. The fewer dollars that we hold, and the more precious metals or the more real world assets that we hold, that's one tangible, easy thing that we can do now to wake up a little bit and to start protecting ourselves and maybe future generations.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment wholeheartedly. Excuse me. Dustin briefly mentioned QE and QT, and a lot of people don't realize that is not something that's old, something that's been around for a long time. It was literally Ben Bernanke's pet project that he wanted to see happen, and it did happen. And the ripple effects from that have been just staggering. And there's once that genie is out of the bottle, there's no getting it back in. So where that goes, I don't know. I think the Fed's balance sheet is now a little over $6 trillion. When the 2008 financial crisis happened and the TARP bill was presented and then ultimately passed, the number was 900 billion. And that was an incredible amount of money. I remember almost falling off my chair. That's not too long ago, right? And now 900 billion for these people, it seems like it's just almost like rounding error, because the just amount of spending, like you said, David, the amount of printing. We briefly touched on these things we're not educated about these things when we're growing up, and that's probably by design. I'm not a big conspiracy person, but it's kind of right in front of you, right? And you can either ignore it or you can look at it and see what it is for what it is. There's never been a country with so much debt. Now, debt to GDP, there's countries that the percentages are much higher. There are a few of them that are over 200%. And for those of you that don't know, America is now at 120%, which, if you had spoken to an economist a few years ago and said, well, if the US went to 120% debt to GDP, what would that look like? And the economist would be like, oh my God, that'd be the worst thing ever. Well, we're here now, and that's creeping up and creeping up. And so at what point does the system break? David, I've mentioned many times on the show, it's not if, but when we go into a recession or depression. It's just how the cycles work, right? So what does the Fed, at least in our country, what does the Fed have in its tool chest to remedy these issues like it did in the past? Well, in the past, like 2008 or COVID, they printed, that money printing machine just got fired up and they printed their way out of it, and lowered interest rates for a decade to almost zero, which is like jet fuel on an economy. So a lot of the growth that we saw, how much of that is actually real? I'm sure a lot, but what does the Fed do next time when this happens? Just print more money? Obviously, they can lower interest rates, but you can't kick the can down the road forever. You look at any civilization, any empire throughout history, and they've all had the same reason for the most part of why they failed. And that's because their debt grew to be too large and unmanageable, and inflation, which is a tax on everybody. Just, Rome, they killed Rome. Obviously the British, you had, before the British, you had the
Spanish.
Denmark. You had the Spanish, you had the Danes, not, and then you had, so you could look throughout history and you see this happening. I want, David, in your opinion, because this is something I do think about a lot, even when we're not talking about it. My mind is always, I love financial, having a good financial acumen. So in your opinion, what do you think the real inflation rate is at right now? I know they say food and energy, we're at right around 3%. That's fine. That's great. But the real inflation, including food and energy, where do you think we're at?
Well, here I am in Ottawa, in Canada. I know, and I can only speak for myself. When I go fill up my gas tank, it's not any less cheaper today than it was a year ago. Even we just had an announcement recently where the carbon taxes were removed from gasoline. The prices didn't budge that much. I know that every time I go to the grocery store, it's more expensive. Even looking up, I'm taking a holiday. I don't know about you, but when's the last time you looked at a hotel room? It's unbelievably expensive to sleep somewhere for one night. So I don't really believe what we're being sold to as a CPI, as a consumer price index, or inflation rate. I think what is it? I think they say it's 2.5 or 3, but in reality, I'm going to say that it's 8, 10, maybe even 12 in real life. And I don't buy this idea of, well, we're going to take out, transportation or whatever. Hey, or food, that's what we use all the time. We buy gas all the time. We eat all the time. So why would you remove those from, right? So in reality, we know life is more expensive today. And it's just not, and it's also taxes. Payroll taxes are going up. Here in Canada, we're taxed just on the air we breathe. We're taxed on top of tax on top of tax. So we all know life's more expensive. And just one thing about inflation, because one of my biggest things is providing financial literacy. And I know inflation is a word that we just throw out there, and people think they understand what it is, and people are probably generally happy when the government says, "Oh, our target this year is 2%." And I bet you most people listening or watching would be, "Oh, that sounds good. That's pretty low." Right. But do you really understand what that means? That's a signal that the government is telling everyone that we're going to devalue the dollar by 2% this year, and probably the next year, and probably the year after that. So unless you're earning more, like 2% more at your salary job, or unless you're earning at least 2 or 3% more in your investments, you are falling behind. So the one thing that I think we need to do, because you opened this up about government spending like crazy and we're spiraling out of control. I think the one thing that we as citizens of our respective countries need to start doing is not only get into precious metals, but also start demanding something different from our politicians, where it's now becoming unacceptable to have this much debt. It's now becoming unacceptable that you're not running on a platform of fiscal prudence and responsibility. We are no longer going to take it because we are the ones paying for it. And I think it's time soon enough that people, and it's our own fault because we've let it happen. By the way, we've elected individuals and parties and things in both countries. So it's time for citizens to stand up and say, we are tired and we're not going to take any more of the taxes, of the money printing, of the devaluing of our dollar, because my work is valuable and this hidden tax is devaluing my efforts.
I couldn't agree more, David. It's they've really it's to the point where it's beyond reckless what we see. And really, what do we have that we can? The only thing we could do is not pay taxes. If everyone chose to not pay taxes, but then how do you get that grassroots effort going? Because I know what I pay in payroll tax and all these other taxes, and it's disgusting that it just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. But I love this story, David. I'll tell it real quick. I've said it before on this show, and it's just a nice little analogy dealing with inflation and money printing and gold. So in 1933, if I would have taken a double eagle and gone to the tailor, I could have had a beautiful suit made, all custom, shoes, belt, the whole 9 yards, used that 1 ounce of gold. And I could have gone in 1933 to a bank and exchanged that 1 ounce gold for a $20 bill. Fast forward to 2025, I can still go and get a tailor-made suit, beautiful belt, shoes, for 1 ounce of gold. It'll be a gorgeous suit. That $20 that I got in 1933, what am I going to get with that? A sandwich, and a soda. So that just shows right there in real life how gold and precious, particularly gold, is a fantastic store of value. And that's what I'm always telling my customers. David, we deal with precious metals, but we primarily deal in graded rare coins, which is also a great store of value. But gold in particular, this year, last calendar year, gold has done something I've never seen since I've been in the business. The way it's just appreciated. And when you see metals up 5% in a day, that should tell you that something is wrong. Something is really going on. Gold, precious metals, those are the canary in the coal mine, right? So, excuse me. I just see a store of value that clients can put their hard-earned fiat dollars into. That's really going to protect them. I mean, like you said earlier, gold and silver, as used for money, used for exchange of goods, has been around for as long as written history has been around, and it's not going anywhere. And so I just feel that based off what I've read and seen, I think inflation is 12% to 15%. 12, probably around 12. And if you're just sitting in CDs, perfect example, my mom had a bunch of CDs, and after my father had died, and I was like, Mom, you got to get out of these CDs. You're losing money here. And how many other people out there, especially if they're older and, manage their own money, and they just are sitting in CDs getting 3.5%. Meanwhile, 9% more is getting chewed away each year. So how do we stop that? Well, people need to speak with someone like you and get really good advice. People need to work with a company like ours to get these materials so that they're protected, because the government's not going to protect us. Your government's not going to protect you. Our government's not going to protect us. They have their own agenda, and we are literally the worker bees to make that agenda happen. So we do have some control still, and that control is you have the choice and the ability to purchase these kinds of assets. Like you said, I can't agree more. Assets, and I've said it on the show, I think every week, having assets, that is the key. If you don't have assets moving into the future, you're going to have some real issues. So even if you're starting late, you're just starting out, start accumulating those assets, whether it's graded coins, whether it's precious metals, whether it's a house, whether it's artwork, you name it. But assets are a must. Store value is a must, because the government's not looking out for our best interests. And unfortunately, that's really become really clear in my opinion, within the last year, when we've kind of had the drape pulled back, and we kind of get a little glimpse of what's the real mechanics are that's happening.
You're absolutely right. And I think too, it's not that the price of gold and silver are going up. This is one thing that I think I just want to get them to understand. Yes, we see on Bloomberg and Kitco that the prices are going up, but the reason why they're going up is because the price of the dollar is going down. So what they're doing is they're doing exactly what they're designed to do. And as you said, they're storing value. I don't know anything else today that can do that. So when people get all excited about, oh, wow, look at the price of gold, it's really up. Yeah, but it's because your dollar is buying less of it. And so then the other question in there too that you mentioned is, I believe that it's for anyone at any stage, at any age, right? It's just not for someone who has, millions and billions of dollars. It's for the everyday person. And it's for anyone whether you're 18 or 88, it doesn't matter. Everyone should be taking their fiat dollars and keeping enough in their checking account to pay their monthly bills. Absolutely, right? But take the excess and store it into something that's going to retain its value. And why not gold and silver? They're way easier to buy than real estate. A lot less work to manage.
So, David, do you believe? What's your opinion on physical versus, let's say, buying mining stocks or GLD or something of that nature?
So I have a varied approach to it. I'm in agreement to all that. First and foremost, my personal priority, and my approach that I try to share with clients is, again, it depends on their needs. But for the most part, people come for financial security and protection. They're looking for a way to protect their wealth against inflation and to preserve it. So it's as a financial wealth store of value first. So that's where physical comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these days, given where we are with market conditions and economics, again, massive public debt, money printing, inflation, dollar devalue, it's actually, because it's pushing up the price of gold miners and silver miners are actually doing very, very, very well. They're coming out of their 20-year long-term downtrends for the first time, highly undervalued. Many still have not broken out. So they can be a very, very good investment. So again, I approach it from two different ways. One as a store of value, the physical, but if you're also looking to use precious metals as an investment, because I generally typically don't see gold and silver as an investment primarily, but it can be depending on the market conditions. And we have those market conditions today whereby we see the prices of the physical going up, but the miners are also going to have huge benefits, particularly because energy costs are still low. So their input costs are still low. So every dollar that silver and gold go up, it's just pure profit for them. So for me, yes, I like both. One as a store, one as an investment. And for me, I tend to look for those mining companies that have not yet broken out, because quite a few have, and it can be a bit late in the game. But for those that have not yet or just slightly broken their long-term downtrends, the asymmetric bets on those, we may not see this again in our generation.
I agree. That's a great insight there. Thank you, David.
This is a perfect segue to our next segment here, actually. We have a question about tokenized assets. So, yeah, David, we'll get your take first before we jump on with John. Could tokenized metals be the catalyst that finally brings younger generations into precious metals investing?
Oh, absolutely. That's, in my opinion, that's the the next iteration of where we go. The younger generation, and this is from experience, I mean, most of our customer base is 45 into the 90s. Very few that are younger. And we've talked about this many times, Dustin. And why is that? Well, every generation that is different in many, many ways. This younger generation seems to be more transient. And by that, I mean just there's a lot of renters. It's not like when I was 25. When I was 26, I had my first house. Most younger people in their 20s, even into their 30s, still don't own a home because they've just been priced out. So you have an entire generation of renters. With that being said, they, in my opinion, the way I've thought about this is that they don't want to necessarily have, if we're talking about physical, they don't want to have physical with them because of the nature of their living situations. So what's the alternative? Well, you can keep it at a depository, which is required for tokenization, or you can actually have the physical with you and risk theft, risk, a fire, risk, fill in the blank. So the tokenization of precious metals is something near and dear to our heart, but we're still a little bit away from that becoming a reality where we see mass adoption, where I could have, let's say I'm 30 years old and I have $100,000. That's just a round number, in gold that was tokenized. And now instead of worrying, I'm going on vacation, my gold is at my house. When I get home, it might not be there. Who knows what the situation might be, but because it's tokenized, I now have it in my wallet, in my phone. And the way that, in my opinion, that this all works is being able to then use those dollars, use those assets for other purposes. Because in the past, if a customer bought gold or precious metal, silver, palladium, platinum, rare coins, rare notes, whatever it might be, it normally would sit in a safe deposit box, or in the shoebox on the top of the closet, really not doing much for the customer other than being a store of value, which what we just discussed is greatly important. But imagine being able to not only have that as a store of value, but also be able to use that for whatever you might want within Web3, whether it's gaming, whether it's other investments, whether it's, fill in the blank again. And that's why I think that this next generation, once these rails are in place to make it mass adoption, we're going to see more of this, and that's going to become the norm eventually. It's just a matter of time.
David, what's your thoughts on tokenized metals?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the trend, right? Digitization of the financial universe. That's the train that we seem to be on. I look at, maybe while there are always benefits to technology, there's also potential downfalls. And for me, I get a little concerned when we're too much in one direction. Putting everything on a computer, on the internet, or in digitization, I feel like we are maybe unconsciously or giving up some of our, freedoms, privacy, potentially access. There's a greater potential, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's a greater potential maybe to lose some of our financial privacy if everything's on the internet or wherever it is. We talked earlier about being debanked. Maybe there's a risk of that. Maybe someone doesn't like my political views, and I just feel like as we continue down the road towards increased digitization, maybe only encourages and supports the case, and I'm not saying, and in parallel, I'm not saying it's one or the other, for maybe actually holding and owning real physical things like precious metals that I can touch and feel comfortable and confident knowing that it can't be taken away from me, that if I did have to go spend it, I can do it anonymously. So I see the benefits of tokenization. I see the benefits to society, and you're right, everyone's got a phone, and it is more convenient. And I can probably use it more as collateral too. If my financial institution sees that I'm holding X number of ounces of gold and tokenized, I can maybe get a loan or whatever it is. So there's definite benefits. I just watch for the potential pitfalls by going too far in one direction.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up the other side of that coin, David. And I do agree with you. There are some downsides. One of them I've thought of many times is if the grid goes down, if we have a solar flare that knocks out our grid.
Yeah.
There's different scenarios where that could happen, and if all my assets are digital, well, what do I do now? Yeah, what do we do?
We've had internet outages, we've had power outages, and we had one here about a year ago lasted about 2 weeks, and it was rough. What happens when the power and internet goes out? What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
nothing. And really, if you think about it, what is the reason for this push in digitization? In my mind, digitization, the way it's being used, let's say by Larry Fink, he's a huge proponent. He's really a spearhead on the digitization of RWAs. In my mind, digitization is another word for securitization. Yeah. And so it makes sense to me why there's a huge push to digitize everything, because now everything is tradable. And just like on an exchange, on the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, or the American Stock Exchange, or you name the exchange, the Hang Seng, they all get a piece of every trade. So if everything is tradable, more money is going to be made by those that are, that built out the system. So absolutely, there's positives and there's negatives. We do it, and the reason that we're so bullish on it is not so much what we had just discussed. It's more so of bringing younger people into the fold. In particular, with, let's say, American coin and currency, and graded coins, numismatics, or even precious metals. This goes back now, David, probably 4 years in my mind, where originally I was like, how do we bring the younger generation into the fold, into this industry, into this hobby? And so the ways that we've always done it didn't apply, because they're literally the internet generation, right? The iPhone generation. So how do we do that? Blockchain is sexy. It's got hopefully a great future. And so that was kind of our course of action, was trying to just bring younger people into the fold. And the chips are going to fall where they may. I do believe that eventually that everything will get digitized, because there's just so much money potentially to be made for the powers that be, for like the BlackRocks, for the JP Morgans, for these large institutions. And so, we just want to kind of present the way things that we've always collected or invested in numismatics or precious metals, and just kind of rewrap it and present it in a different way. It's still kind of the same process. It's just a different paint, different coat of paint, let's say.
Yeah, it's more modern. It's more recognizable to younger kids, right? It's easier for them to adopt if it's this way. And I'm really happy to hear that you're a big proponent of youth, because so am I. And one of the things is, when I'm on coaching calls, whether it's a mother or father or parents together, I often say, hey, at our next one, invite your kids. Get them to hear this, because educating the youth is one of the ways where we can start to break some of these conventional ways of thinking and start to build new pathways for future generations. Imagine if our kids and youth were even aware of precious metals and actually owning maybe some silver because it's more affordable than gold, or getting fractional gold. And, you know, it plays to a little bit of the collector child in all of us, right? Whether it's trading cards or whatever, there's something special about holding a physical piece of gold and silver and knowing that you don't really want to give it up. You can't say that about a fiat dollar, right? It just comes and goes. It's like there's zero attachment to it. But owning your first piece of metal, you're like, oh, wow, this is cool, man. And then you're like, okay, well, you start to browse around on the internet. Maybe you go down to your local coin shop. You're like, oh, wow, there's more. Oh, this is a nice design. Or maybe I want to get platinum next time. Or, you know, you just start to open up the whole universe of possibilities. And before you know it, you're looking for ways to maybe trim some wasteful spending, or you're looking for more dollars somehow. How can I get more, right? And by doing so, you could be building some better financial habits in the meantime.
Interesting.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on the fractional ownership. So you don't have to go out and buy an ounce. You don't have to buy 100 ounces of silver, you know, or gold coin. Like, what's your guys' take on you know, buying like a piece of the action? Like, how do you get started there, David?
Dollar cost average. That's my biggest thing.
I'm glad you brought that up, David, because I was literally just thinking this before Dustin asked the question. I was looking at the price of silver. The ask is $50.97. And people might look at that and say, wow, it's so expensive. I don't want exposure in buying it here. It was at, you know, $35 not long ago. You can't think like that. You're never going to get in at the low. You're never going to sell at the high. You get in, you start buying, and like David said, you dollar cost average over time. And then when silver eventually goes to 70, 75, 80, wow, I got in cheap. I got in early. I got in at 50. So it's all relative. But doing it the right way over time, the way David suggests, is really, really good advice. Dollar cost averaging is the way to do it.
I get asked all the time, oh boy, gold's really up there. You know, is it too expensive? Is it too late? Did I miss the boat? Same with silver. And, you know, is this a good time to buy, or even should I sell? That's another one. Oh boy. Oof. And I say it's never a bad time to trade in some dollars for real money. Like you said, like, go back to your story. In fact, you know, the story that you used earlier, John, that's pretty much identical. The same story I have with the 1933. Oh, right. It's like identical. I don't know. Unbelievable. So imagine back then, you know, if people didn't buy gold because they thought it was too expensive, or go back to the 1980s when it was $900 an ounce or whatever it was. People then thought it was too expensive. Well, I would love to be buying it at 900 and not 4,000 today. So the best time, in my opinion, to buy it is when you can, and buy it slowly over time. Like if you're sitting on 50 grand or 100,000, I wouldn't go all in all at once, because as we know, the prices do change, especially silver is a bit more volatile. So why not just say, okay, I'm going to buy X amount for the next 12 months or whatever it is, and you can dollar cost average. And in the meantime, maybe if you're someone who's fairly new, you can have a better appreciation for what's out there. You may want to say, oh, I want to get that now. Oh, look at that Philharmonic. That's beautiful. I want that. So going all in at once, I mean, you may get some better pricing, but it's safer to do some dollar cost averaging. And there's never a bad time to swap up.
Yes. Agreed. Good advice. Great advice.
That's great advice.
Oh, and selling, I should talk about the selling. So people say, hey, you know, the price is up. I should sell, right? And then I always say, well, why did you buy to begin with, right? Why would you trade up your fiat dollars to buy metals only to trade it down back into fiat dollars? Like, I get it. Unless you need to put a new roof on your house, or you need tires for your car or whatever, you don't have it, because sadly a lot of people don't have like an emergency fund. I get that. But if you're doing it as an investment or as a quick trade, you're going to be disappointed, because you're going to be right back where you started. So for me personally, I never intend to sell. Why? Why would I sell? Why would I sell back into
We
fiat
lose
dollars
David?
unless something magically changed with our monetary system and our financial world where holding dollars made sense? It's not. It's for me. It's a mindset. It's an attitude. You get paid, transfer it into gold or silver, and I'm good. Right? Just that mentality.
Did we get disconnected for a second there?
I'm there. I'm here.
Okay. I don't know if we lost John. I think we lost John. Yeah, we'll touch on the last subject before we get the last 10 minutes here. I wanted to touch on AI, EVs, and solar demand. So I want to talk about how metals are being used or for industrial use cases. So what's your take on, the consumption of metals rather than, like you said, it's more of a less of a investment, more of a, like currency. So what's your take on like how that consumption is for the industry?
So yeah, those aspects touch on the investment potential side of silver, particularly.
Right.
Unlike previous run-ups in silver, where it was mostly based on other factors, in my opinion, I feel like these days, because of change in policy and in the environment, we're seeing more EV batteries and solar panels and all that. Even defense technology requiring massive amounts of silver, unlike in the past, and lithium and copper and cobalt and nickel, all these things. So for me, it's that's why these days are a bit different than the past, because we didn't have these upward price pressures on silver today than we did in the past. So we have to remember, as a silver miner, the price of silver has been so low over the past 20 years, where mines have been sheltered, they've been closed, they've been paused, because it wasn't economically viable to put a shovel in the ground. But now with silver, so as a result, there was a shortage of supply. But now we have demand, which has been ramped up and is ramping up even more over the future, it looks like. These mines are slowly coming back. We still don't have enough supply. So all of these conditions just put upward pressure on the price of silver. Of course, we have retail demand, which I think is growing. And we have the U.S., was it this week or late last week, adding silver and others to the critical minerals list.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, gold is the store of wealth. It's the hedge against inflation. But if someone is looking to use precious metals as an investment, silver for me, and platinum as well. For me, platinum is probably the most undervalued right now. But silver has such a benefit to society for so many applications that I can see someone doing quite well investing in physical silver, and even the junior silver miners.
Yeah. Isn't it that each one of those, I read somewhere, each one of the missiles that was being used, I believe over in Ukraine.
I think it's the Tomahawks.
Tomahawks. There was a monster box in each Tomahawk.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's just one missile, and then I came back in, you're saying solar panels and electronics. And I've been saying to my customers for years that silver is not a precious metal, it's a strategic metal.
Yeah.
And so that's just becoming more and more apparent as time goes on. But real quick, David, going back to when I got cut off, we were moving some things around, and I found just a bunch of silver that I had in bags, and junk silver and this kind of silver and that silver. My girlfriend's like, "Why don't you just get rid of it, just sell it?" And I was like, "What am I gonna do with that cash?" Like I said exactly what you said. Why did I buy this to begin with? Not to sell it. I bought it to just buy it and forget about it, basically, for who knows when, maybe never. But yeah, if where are you going to put those dollars? Let's say you start getting into some bigger numbers, $500,000 or $1 million that you liquidate because you have 10 million in metals. Well, now you have tax consequences. Where are you going to put those dollars? the fiat currency. I think the stock market is wildly overvalued. The debt markets are not doing so hot. Commodities, yeah, I agree with you. Precious metals, other commodities, I think we're on a decade run. I do. And there's not much that's going to slow that down. And for me, and anyone can do this, look at that debt clock. And as that debt clock keeps going up and up and up and up, in my opinion, you're going to see precious metals follow suit. So, yeah, that was a really good point you made, David. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. And I don't think we're in a blip. It's not just it's just a good period right now and I've missed the boat. No, for all those things you just said, the conditions for silver and gold to thrive, and when they're thriving, it's a sad state of affairs. That's the thing, right? It's not because things are going well, because things are going badly. That's why it's doing well. That debt clock is quite the thing, I tell you. Well, having bags of silver around sure beats just having a bags of dollars. No one has fun playing with dollars, do they? I like breaking out the physical and hey, what haven't I touched in a while? Oh, what's this nice bag of 10-ounce bars kind of thing, right? So, I mean, we joke about it, but, it gets back to the financial literacy stuff. Investing and learning and talking about money for most people is like taboo, first of all, or tremendous amount of fear and anxiety because they associate money and investing with, I have no idea what I'm doing. I can't afford to lose a dime. I'm just going to hand it over to someone else and I'm going to forget about it. And so the biggest things that I also talk about is it's time for us to regain control of our finances. Stop delegating your finances. Because when you think about it, we delegate a lot of our life out to others, whether it's school boards, municipal councils, this, that, and the other thing. Why would you delegate out your finances, which is the vehicle for you to enjoy life, right? Spend a little time, watch fantastic podcasts like this, do some learning, and you'll quickly realize that, that's not so bad. That's not so hard. And then it just propels you to actually want to do more. So I'm a big proponent of regaining control of your finances, and then you're going to be able to maybe tell your kids and tell others, and that's another way we can propagate this knowledge and literacy amongst more people.
Absolutely. And like you said, David, there's a certain feeling that you get when you hold metal in your hands. We've all heard the term gold fever. Well, there's silver fever as well. There's I love platinum. There's something about platinum when I hold it in my hand. It gives me this feeling. It's hard to explain what that feeling is, but holding something of value, potentially high value, in the palm of my hand, especially gold, because gold, I could be holding a piece of gold, and in that gold is literally all the history, all the written history that we've had. In that gold could be gold from the Roman times, from Caesar, from
Byzantine era.
Yeah, Byzantine. You just pick the time in history, and so because it gets melted down again, remade, melted down, remade. To me, that's fascinating. And when I hold it in my hands, whether it's peace dollars or any kind of metal, but gold in particular and platinum, there's a certain feeling that I get. So that's rewarding in and of itself. Whereas if I'm just holding dollars, oh great, okay,
what am I going to do with that? Yeah,
it doesn't even give you that feeling. So there's something nice about that, and everyone should experience that. And that's why you should reach out to David for information on investing and where to go, coaching for this alternative investment, and to American Coin and Currency if you wanted to actually purchase the physical and get in the game.
One thing I get asked a lot, John and Dustin, is pre-33 or bullion, kind of more modern stuff, right? And to talk about your business a little bit, I do like the pre-33 because everyone recognizes it as true, authentic gold. You can't always say that about some of the more recent stuff because of maybe some Chinese fakes or something, but everyone recognizes, a St. Gaudens or something pre-33, right? So I find that those have a bit more value, especially for some higher end clients. I tend to gravitate them more towards the pre-33, where you can buy it. That's the other thing. It's hard to buy this stuff now.
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder. I have a customer right now. I'm trying to put together an order for just a little over $500,000 in gold double eagles, and I can do it, but it's taking a lot more time than it used to. It used to be a phone call. Now I'm having to source from a couple of different places to get the prices that we want. You know, I don't want to. None of my customers should have to pay full market, but yeah, it's just, and that's going to continue. You're going to see more and more scarcity. One thing I wanted to ask you, David, something you brought up earlier about the miners. So just like with oil companies, right? When oil was low, fracking didn't make sense. Once oil gets over a certain number, fracking makes sense. Same thing with the miners, right? So let's say silver miners, when silver was at $16, $18, $20 an ounce, there's not, your overhead costs stay the same for the most part. But when it gets to 50, well, now you're making a whole lot more money. Does that incentivize more mining to happen? And if that does happen, do you feel that there might potentially be a not a flood to the market, but just too much of that particular metal entering the market? There's a word for it. I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but
It's like
know
a
what I'm
lag,
saying?
right? The time delay is like a lag.
Dilution. It is dilution because of additional silver coming into market because the miners make more money when it's up like this.
So it depends. I mean, you just don't explore, develop, and produce a mine overnight, right? It takes years. Government approval, you got to explore, you got to do the assays, you got to get permits. Like this takes years. It's like a nuclear reactor. It's the same story with uranium, right? It takes years. So if it's a new mine, it's going to take a long time. Now, if it's a mine that's just been paused or under a caretaker, and it could be opened up maybe within a year or two, and then start producing. Yeah. So I don't think because where we see the price today and where it could be going, that all of a sudden there's going to be a massive tsunami of additional supply. I think it's going to take time. And of course, like anything else in capital markets, the supply and the demand will kind of even all out. And then if there's too much supply, it could put downward pressure on the price. And those miners which require a certain level of silver to mine may pause again, and therefore, there could be a shortage of supply again, and back and forth we go. So I don't see any immediate shocks because prices are high and supply would go up. It's going to take years and years. Yeah. And the other thing too is most people may not be aware of this. We're seeing very low ore grades now. So all the easy to mine stuff has been done. You stick a shovel in the ground and it's like, wow, this is like 80% pure silver. Well, those days are pretty much gone. Companies have to dig deeper and are getting fewer concentrates of silver. The percentages are going, so it's more time, more money. So yeah, I wouldn't be worried about almost all of a sudden there's a whole glut of silver on the market. I'd be shocked if that happened over the next 5-10 years.
Okay, good to know. You're in Alberta, you said?
I'm in Ontario. I'm in
Ontario.
Ottawa.
I know some of the largest, if not the largest, mining companies based out of Canada. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but there's a few miners in Canada. Are there any gold or silver mines in Canada, precious metal mines in Canada? I really don't know much about mining.
So Canada is one of the largest gold producers in the world. I think we're number 3, but sadly our government chooses not to hold gold reserves. So yeah, so let's don't get me started on that. Silver, we're not really big on, which is unusual because usually gold and silver and They come a bit hand in hand, but we're not big silver producers. I wouldn't even say we're on the top 10, but copper, nickel, cobalt, aluminum, you name every other valuable metal, Canada is usually one of the world's largest producers. There's a golden triangle, it's called, out in British Columbia, which has large, high quality ore deposits of gold. I know in Northern Ontario, there's gold, Quebec gold, even in Nova Scotia, there's gold mines. So we have a large number of producing. These aren't just exploratory, these are actual producing gold mines. Even in the Arctic, harder to mine there, it's harder to get to and all that, more expensive. So we are one of the biggest players on the world stage, gold producers, but sadly our government chooses not to have reserves for the benefits of its population. Just imagine if we did run it like Norway's sovereign wealth fund, like they do with oil and gas. Because we just don't have gold and silver here. We have oil and gas, we have lumber, we have, you name it, we have every natural resource. Imagine if we had a sovereign wealth fund based on our own natural resources. And you too.
I didn't realize Canada didn't have a sovereign wealth fund.
Most countries don't. I know Norway has one. It's very, I think there's like $1 trillion in there now, and that's just the oil and gas.
Yeah, Norway's is the largest sovereign wealth fund, larger than Saudi Arabia's. And they've managed it correctly, it seems so. But they have, Canada has amazing amounts of resources. It's unfortunate that it was mismanaged. But at least you're managing yourself correctly, and you're giving great advice to your clients so they can manage themselves and not have to rely on the government. And we all thank you for that, David.
Fantastic. Yeah, we're over an hour here. Thanks, David, for being with us. We have some questions, and then we'll go with your guys' final words. Let's see. Got a question here. For someone overwhelmed by precious metals, what's a single core principle you'd want them to understand first?
Well, for me, the first thing is to go find someone and ask your questions. I know that sounds like an easy answer, and it's sometimes difficult to find someone to talk to about precious metals. Often people will go down to their bank to talk about their finances. I generally don't suggest that, but that's what they do. They go down to their bank and they're not going to get much helpful advice there usually, or talk to their financial advisor, and they often don't sell precious metals, so they don't suggest it to you. And so the biggest thing is to find someone where you can ask your questions and get some unbiased, honest answers. It's just to determine whether this is even right for you. Precious metals may not be right for everyone. I can't really honestly think of a situation where it's not right for someone, but there's always people out there. Find someone that you can trust, that you can talk with, and then just to build your knowledge. Often it's demystifying because people really don't really understand. If you're to go down to the street corner and ask 10 people, what's a precious metal? I bet you most people couldn't even tell you what a precious metal is to begin with. So, demystifying, having some clarity around what physical gold is and not paper ETFs, the difference between the two. That's not gold. Owning a paper ETF is not owning gold. So there's so much to learn, to maybe unlearn in some cases. But just to start talking to someone where you can feel good about, okay, I have some better information now, maybe to make a step forward or not.
That's great advice. Yeah.
What's your take, John?
I think I agree with what David said. One thing that people need to keep in mind, and David hit upon it quickly, is that when you go to your bank, you go to your broker at Fidelity or at Charles Schwab or Goldman Sachs, they're pushing products that they make more money on. I was in that business. That's just how it works. They all do it. And so they're gonna steer you towards ways that they could most likely make a few extra dollars, squeeze out a few more bucks by selling their packaged in-house products. So yeah, you have to reach out to someone that has knowledge in this arena. Someone like David, someone like myself, one of our reps here at American Coin, and just get good quality information and a little piece of advice. If in that first conversation, the person you're speaking with is trying to sell you something, find someone else.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, appreciate it.
And the other aspect to that, because people are always so afraid to do the wrong thing, is often what I tell people, because as adults, the best way we can learn is actually to do is go out and find, if you have a local coin shop in your area, go down, visit them, talk to the owner, tell them you're new, and if it's a reputable place, they'll explain this to you. They'll show you what they have, and they'll explain the difference between, junk silver and bullion and bars and gold and silver. You'll learn more probably from that 15-20 minute visit to a local coin shop than you would on your own by doing internet searches and things like that. So, and of course, buy your first ounce. Maybe it's silver. Just buy your first ounce, just so you can experience the process of buying it. And because so many people are so afraid that they're going to get scammed. It's one of the myths I find in the precious metal world. And I get it, forking over $4,000 for something I'm ordering online for a gold coin can be quite daunting. But going out and buying your first ounce, say, of silver, because it's more affordable, and just understanding how it works is, okay, that was easy. And you get instant gratification because you're walking out with a piece of metal in your hand. And then often, as we talked about before, it can be darn fun is, okay, that was fun. I want to go back again. What else could I buy? Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, some good questions we got from who was that? That was Brennan, and we had a previous question from Adam. So appreciate you guys asking those questions for us. Yeah, we're here at the hour, a little bit over time. Appreciate David. Any final words to our guests here, and let them know what you're doing and how they can find you.
You go first, David.
I just encourage anyone who's if you're watching this, obviously you have an interest in precious metals, and if you haven't purchased yet, ask yourself why not. What are you waiting for? And if you have questions, ask John, ask Dustin, and I'm happy to answer your questions too. Even though I'm located in Canada, I can answer questions anywhere in the world. So feel free to send me an email or visit my website. I have a free 15-minute discovery call for exactly this reason. If someone wants to chat, they have a real burning question about whether precious metals are right for them, feel free to chat with me. There's no obligation. Like I said, it's 100% unbiased, honest insights. I'm not affiliated with any dealer. I don't sell precious metals. You're totally on your own to buy whatever you want from wherever you want. And if you decide to work with me, we would go together and develop a precious metals plan so you have a strategy and me by my side to help you do that safely and confidently.
You guys check it out on the screen. We got David LeBlanc, Precious Metals Coach, Precious Metals Coach at proton.me or at me or .me actually. selfsufficientyou.wixsite.com. Go check out David and get that free consultation. So get yourself started here. We'll plug in ourselves here before we take off for the day. Call us 561-310-8341. Email us uniquecoins@gmail.com. Website coinandcurrency.net. Check us out on eBay 𝗪𝗵𝗲𝐶. We have a bunch of products out there. Also, just give us a call. We have products that are not available on the eBay store as well. So this is a fantastic conversation. Appreciate you, David. Appreciate you, John. We'd love to have you on again, of course.
Absolutely.
Building another panel, so we'll have you on here possibly with some other guests. Yeah, this is American Coin and Currency. What was the title again, guys? Run it back.
Where is precious metal investing heading?
Yes, you got it. American Coin and Currency.
Did we answer that question?
No, actually, let's do it. Let's do it for the final take because we didn't answer that question. Where is precious metal heading? That's an open-ended question.
I think it's the same place it's always been. We just need to open more people's eyes to it.
For sure. John?
I agree. This 100% same sentiment. I think you're going to have more and more people entering this field as things get worse and worse with the fiat dollar, and in particular inflation, which is why the fiat dollar is getting devalued. And something David said really quick earlier that not many people know is that gold, the price of gold, like he said, is not a reflection of gold going up. It's a direct reflection of the purchase power of your fiat currency going down. So keep that in mind. And the information that was given out today, there was some really great information. So I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. As always, listening, be a part of this show. David, thank you so much for joining us today. I learned some great things today, which I love to do, and we absolutely look forward to having you back on, and hopefully we'll continue with this, and just I really believe our predictions are gonna be accurate. Just if you see the writing on the wall, ignore the noise. Metals are going to continue to go up. So get involved. Contact David sooner than later, and for some really great advice in that free 15 minutes, which is invaluable, absolutely invaluable. Take advantage, folks.
For sure. So yeah, we're here at our time. You can check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We have our live shows every week, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We're here with David LeBlanc, John Mayde, and Dustin Lee, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
See you.